Hi, I'm Sarah LaRoque, President and CEO of Earth Balance, and I really appreciate you taking a few minutes to listen to the presentation. And really wish we could have been there in person, but Mother Nature or Hurricane Milton prevented that. I want to talk about increased demand for coastal plants, and from a grower's perspective, how we are meeting that demand, and give you some information to see sort of what it looks like, a little behind the scenes, how this business works, and I hope you find it interesting. I plan to go over the propagation and how we produce all these millions of beach plants and what that sort of looks like, and some of the issues that we have, so you can understand when planning a beach restoration project, the increased demand, and how that plays into plant availability for us to even get started, different plant specifications that may impact a restoration project, some of the complexities in growing these large number of plants on multiple beach and shoreline renourishment problems that we run into as a grower. It demands delays, deadlines, and some summary information, question and answer. Since we're not there in person, you could always send us an email or a text. Earth Balance, I just wanted to tell you a little bit about us. We are 100% employee owned. We're very proud of that. And we were established in 1985, so we've been around for about 40 years. And we have been planting beaches for about 30 years. So we've got a great deal of experience and seen a lot over the decades of how things have changed. We are headquartered in Southwest Florida, in Northport, Florida. And we have 2 native nurseries that we grow not only beach plants, coastal plants, salt marsh plants, mangroves, but also upland and different freshwater wetland species as well. Our services include the coastal restoration, and we do quite a bit of nuisance and invasive exotic vegetation removal. Upland and wetland maintenance might be parks. It might also be native landscape settings in the more urban or built environment. Our 2 nurseries, and we also do the installation of plants. So I wanted to start out talking about, in the beginning, it all starts with a seed. And specifically, I'll talk about sea oats. Seeds ripen between mid-September into October. And so there's about a 4-week window for harvest once a year. And unfortunately, it also corresponds with hurricane season. So we look like storm chasers. We were just up right in the Panhandle trying to outrun Hurricane Helene before we weren't sure if it was going to hit that area of the Panhandle of Florida where we had access to seed harvest. And then Gulf Coast Florida, we were racing back down here before Milton hit, and the East Coast, and then we're never sure when something's going to come through Florida and hook around and hit Myrtle Beach area. So we just got finished sort of racing around trying to stay in front of 2 hurricanes. It was a little unusual, but that's what we're up against on harvesting sea oats. Without getting a good harvest and getting seeds, you don't grow any sea oats. It's not commercially available. You can't buy the seed. You have to harvest them from native beaches. So, and that takes getting onto native beaches takes permissions to get access. Even many times the projects require documentation that the seed is actually from the area that you say it's from. So that's critically important for us to get access on the beach for sea oat seed harvest. All the other species as well, whether it be penetgrass or some of the diversity species, we have to go to a native beach. And what we found over the last couple of years, some of these beaches get wiped out by a hurricane. There are no sea oats left there. And so you want to have those seeds stored and have a cache of seeds to be able to implement a restoration project, even if that area has been devastated by a hurricane. Germination viability is usually pretty good once we get the seed cleaned and start planting. Before that, we have to bring all that, sort of the panicles. We strip about every 3rd panicle. Most people have said to us they didn't even realize we were there. Very careful about not damaging the existing dune to harvest the seed. It has all the fluff with it, sticks and the chaff and the everything. So it comes back sort of heavy and bulky. That is then put into we've got a large metal barn, and it's just literally spread out on the floor. And our crews go in and just fluff it every day. What we don't want to do is trap that moisture and cause get any fungus to grow, because then we could damage the seed or ruin the seed. From there, it is sent off to a seed cleaning company, and we never know what we're going to get back. Depends on what Mother Nature decided that year. Sea oats are not really prolific seed producers. They're beautiful panicles, but they don't all have seeds in them. So we're never quite sure exactly what we're going to get back as far as the amount of seed for the amount of fluff, we call it, that you harvest. The seed can be stored, and we say I've read anything from 5 to 8 years. We probably never push that upper limit, because it tends to get used up, especially as things have accelerated. We're going through the seed faster. We're not able to have the large amounts on supply or as a cache as we'd like to have, because we've seen lately entire beaches are washed out, and there are no sea oats there in many cases to harvest in order to replant. So we've got to rely on a storage of seeds. So just to show you what it looks like, our sea oats are all grown in the greenhouse. So we have to have greenhouse space to be able to grow millions of sea oats from multiple projects. This is what we're finding these days. Case in point, just this year, we grew and installed 8 million sea oats. In the recent past, it was much less. So it really has ramped up, and that all takes space in a greenhouse. So they grow as a liner or 2-inch plant. You'll see over on the left, there's a tray, and each one of these trays holds certain 96 or 98 sea oats. That's based on a specification that the contract requires. And then in the middle at the bottom, I just wanted to show you how the plants are installed. And essentially that little root mass is about 6 to 8 inches down into the sand, and what you're seeing is the top of the plant. And that's how they do best. So they're planted very deep. And then on the right, the top of what the sea oats look like when they come out of the tray, that's a good, healthy root mass. Obviously, you can see how small it is, and to the top of the plant, they aren't going to hold very long in that tray. So there's a push to get this to turn over so that we can get them in the ground. And the picture at the bottom is after about a week in the ground. It's one of our sea oats, and they grow about 1 inch of root system a week. And so that's a really healthy sea oat that's taken off. Once they get in the sand, they tend to just go. So mix of species, that seems to have changed in the last few years as well. More diversity plants, which is great. We just have to be able to, as a grower, anticipate what's coming so that we can get access to natural beaches to be able to get enough starter material for the volume of plants that are now being requested. And they're all slightly different. And the sea oats and the panicgrass, really good root systems will hold the dune, will help build that dune. The dune keeps building and they keep growing up through it. So that's sort of how the dune is built very quickly with the plants. And then the other species, railroad vine, elder, things like that, they're really, really good at trapping windblown sand. And just on a windy day, a beach can lose an inch or so of sand just blowing. So these plants also help trap it and just keep it from going too far. So the increased demand, what we've seen, this was a stat I found, but of 67%, so about 70% increase in the last 5 years. We've lived it. About 10 years ago, we might have done 1 or 2 beach projects a year. Usually maybe the number of plants was about 250,000. Yeah, that was a good project. And about 3 years ago, we started getting up to 3 or 4 projects a year, and these projects were about 500,000 plants. Sea oats, panic, and diversity plants. We're into the millions now. In the last 2 years, we've had repetitive requirements for 1 million+ plants. for beach renourishment projects. So those are sort of the numbers that we're dealing with now, and it ramped up very quickly. We've had to build two more greenhouses to be able to even deal with the current demand. And it's important to know, I've pointed out, so you've got to harvest the seed. We've never seen anyone harvest seed and sell it. If you harvest seed, you're going to grow it and you want to, sell the plants maybe, but you're not selling the seed. There are very few nurseries that grow beach plants, coastal plants, and these sorts of plants on a large quantity. They just don't have the greenhouse space to be able to produce the quality plant that's needed. So they're not commercially available. You can't buy them. You have to grow them out for a project, specific for a project. They don't all have the same specification. And very, very important that nurseries have a cache of seeds that they can store. We have a chiller or an air-conditioned unit that we essentially, large refrigeration unit where we store the seeds. And that's critical. Without the seeds, we don't start at all. And the plants are not available until the project happens. So the plant specifications, just to touch on that quickly. Space requirements, I'm just going to keep talking about the greenhouses. We need projects to go on time, to go out. So we want to turn over our inventory or turn over the space for the greenhouse. So a whole project, you've got 3 projects going, they're all a million plus plants, 3, 4, 5 million plants at once. You want them out so that you can start the next batch. And that's how most nurseries can grow multiple millions of plants, but these projects have to go. We're not going to start them until we have a project and a contract for a project, because no one's buying a million sea oats or diversity plants without it being for a restoration project. Most nurseries have a few 100,000 sea oats for landscape companies, for condo associations, but when the multi-million plant projects come along, those don't start until we have a contract. Also, height and container size, they vary as well. We have 96 cell, you saw, 98 cell, 2-inch liner. They can all be a little different. And then also the plant height, speaking just of sea oats, some projects call for 8 to 10 inches above the meristem of leaf. And then others might be 10 to 12. We had one at one point that was 24 inches, which we had to talk them down off of that, because he said, our grower Joe said, that's a 3-year-old plant in that little teeny plug of a root mass. That doesn't work. So we do work with folks. It'd be better to work before the contract's put out to bid. We're all bidding on a spec that probably can't be grown. And so we really like to engage with planners, whether it be biologists or engineers or federal agencies and planners. You talk to us. Does this make sense? And we do a lot of that with different government agencies, where they ask for just some general guidelines. What size plant material should we spec? And how long is it going to take to grow? So bringing this all together, talking about planning complexities, managing the inventory for multiple projects. The projects are very large. It seems like in the last couple of years, they've gotten much larger. And the time of year for growing plants is something also to consider. In the winter, it's Florida. It's not that cold. However, we have less hours of daylight and cooler temperatures, cooler at night. So the plants slow down. They don't go into total dormancy, but they do slow down and grow slower. And again, that might affect the timing of the planting your project. The months where really it's the slowest is January, February. We also won't start new plants during those months. We don't want that very small, tender plant to possibly get frost. It's just very susceptible at that point in its life. So we've got plants that are growing slower, and then we aren't going to start plants during those months. Again, going back to, because we would never want to impact or lose the plants, because then you've lost seed. You've used up some of your precious commodity. Conversely, in the summer, Yeah, you think, oh, the sea oats love it hot and steamy, but during August, September, when it's really hot, humid, still, it's wet, we've got a lot of fans and that sort of thing in the greenhouses to try to really mimic the beach. We're trying to keep air moving. But once again, really small, tender plants, they're so susceptible to different things when they're that size. And at this time of year where it's really hot and damp, fungus can be an issue, even with a fungus management program. Again, we don't want to start plants where we think they're at risk that they could fail because we would lose that seed. So demand delays and deadlines. You've kind of seen this story building of if we accelerate project schedules, if we're a subcontractor to a drug, you really want it installed faster. We can't really get plants to grow faster. We maximize them to the best of our ability, but you just can't make plants grow any faster than they're going to really grow. Planting delays, that can happen as well, whether we have weather or a storm. We were planting on the east coast of Florida this year, and they just had a lot of wind, so you had wave action right up to the toe of the slope of the dune that we were planting. Well, we can't access the dune because we can't get the plants out there. Things like that, and you've seen and heard me say the plants don't hold very long. So that's just part of our business of what we tackle when we're working on these large projects. All of this impacts nursery space and being able to move that inventory out. And we run into turtle and shorebird nesting and vacationers, and that can complicate our project as well. So in summary, take-home points. Nurseries do not have millions of sea oats or diversity plants sitting on the shelf ready to go. I think I've said that a few times. No beaches can be restored without access to seed and cuttings. That's really where the rubber hits the road here, and we need to, it seems like more and more storms coming, we need to have a good store of seed so that we can turn around and restore these beaches as quickly as possible. And consider timing. All these things factor into timing. It can all be done. It's just better to have some of these things hammered out before they're a condition of a contract. Makes life a lot easier for folks. And we let people know, just ask us. You can email Earth Balance and email myself, and I'll get it to our grower. And we do this a lot for different agencies. Say, just give me an idea. What are the typical species we should be speccing for this type of project, and how long will it take to grow, and what size container? And we're more than happy to do that, because then we're bidding on a better spec when the request comes out. So I hope you enjoyed that. I hope I trust you might have found it interesting. And if you have any questions, just send an email. I have Janie Linscott, who you would have met her if we were there in person as well. But my information's on the app as an attendee, and just give us a call, or if you're ever in Florida, we'd love to show you our operation. And thank you for your time so much. I appreciate it. Bye-bye.